just going to stare at the camera for a minute.
See, the way I do it, it takes a half an hour for me to get here too.
All right, friends. We're making our way through the book of James according to my records. We have come all the way through chapters 1 and 2. We have talked about things like asking God to help us deal with what we're missing. We have looked at the Word and how we can't just hear the Word, we have to do what it says. We've talked about favoritism. We have talked about faith and deeds, that our faith has to be active. It can't just be some sort of head thing going on. It has to be fleshed out. Last time we were together, we talked about the tongue, that it needs to be consistent with our heart. And unfortunately, it always is. So if we have a problem with our mouth, we actually probably have a real heart problem instead. And I believe that brings us up to verse 13. We'll see how things go today, if we make it into chapter 4 or not. But we're going to start with James 3:13. My Bible says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let them show it by their good life, by deeds done in the humility that comes from wisdom. But if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap a harvest of righteousness." I'll just ask you, as you read that and listen, were there any immediate things that kind of jumped out at you?
She's talking about me.
All right then. Well,
Okay, explain the two kinds of wisdom. Draw me a picture, please.
well, we'll try to do that in a minute. I guess one of the things that I noticed as we read through it just now is that it feels like James, when he gets to this part of chapter 3, that he's like picking this piece and this piece and this piece from what he's already covered, right? Who is wise and understanding among you? Okay, we started chapter 1 by saying, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. Okay, so we're still talking about wisdom. Wisdom is an important thing if we're going to try to live a godly life. He also says, if you have wisdom and understanding, then you should show it. How?
By good life
By good life,
and deeds.
by good deeds that you do. That sounds just like chapter 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
If any of you say you have faith, I have deeds, you show me your faith without deeds, and I'll show you my faith by what I do.
Do our deeds in humility. Do our deeds in
humility. Okay, that it feels like some of that kind of ties in to the part on favoritism, and if somebody fancy walks in, that you give them the good chair and the nice place to sit and near the air conditioning and near the coffee pot and all that kind of stuff, but somebody else comes in, and there's this idea that there is maybe some pride that can get in the way. We want to do things humbly. So it really kind of feels like this is sort of a a mushing together of several things that he's already discussed. Okay, so chapter 1 says, if you lack wisdom, ask for it. If you have it, show it by what you do. And if you have evil, wicked, sinful things tucked away in your hearts, you need to get rid of them. You don't want to cherish those things. You don't want to maintain them.
I was just reading this morning Proverbs 10:30, verse 31, and it ties in with
What does Proverbs 10:31 say?
the mouth of the righteous brings forth wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, I was just reading the other day in Ecclesiastes 10:2. A wise man goes to the right. A foolish man goes to the left. Could be political.
It could
Right,
be.
Cody? Did you get it, Cody?
We do want to choose the right path, the correct path, because we're wise. We want to stay away from things that are weak and things that are wicked. Wisdom is intelligence. It is enlightenment, especially kind of as James has been talking for a while. Has to do with the relationships that we have with other people and our relationship with God. We want to be wise in those relationships. We don't want to make bad choices, and you can see, obviously, living a good life, living a humble life. That's a great way to get along with other people and to get along with God. But when we get to verse 14, there's some negative things there. He talks about harboring bitter envy. That would be like fanatic zeal or fiery wrath and jealousy. It's not just a little twinge of, oh, I wish I had that. It's on fire. It's a consuming thing. It can take over. He also talks about harboring selfish ambition. Obviously, selfish ambition is trying to get good things for yourself, scheming and scamming to gain advantage and prestige. And I suppose we have to say what the application is here. James is talking to believers. He's writing to men and women who are a part of the church. And so the specific application that James is making here is, it feels kind of weird, kind of at first blush. How is it possible that people in the church community together, brothers and sisters in Christ, how can you imagine that they would harbor bitter envy against somebody else, or that they would harbor selfish ambition in their hearts as a part of the church? Like, who's really scheming to gain advantage and prestige in the church? That just seems like it's the opposite of the way it ought to be. The example that Jesus sets for us is to be a humble servant, not to be some sort of exalted celebrity or power broker. We're not. The thing that is now on my list of least favorite words is is an influencer. The internet is now full, our community, society is full now of not just celebrities, but also influencers. They're not famous for anything else other than they post and podcast content. And what they say has a great deal of impact on people. Some of the people that they label as influencers, I think, oh, not here. They got no influence on me. I don't know why they have influence on anybody, but it's people like pick a Kardashian, any Kardashian. They're famous for being famous. They have podcasts and video logs and all that kind of stuff going on, and they influence people. But I still can't figure out why. Why are some of the people who are seen as being influencers? Why are they influential? Okay, in the church, the main influencer, though, the single influencer should be Christ Jesus through His Holy Spirit. We do not want to make church a place where we're jockeying for power or impact on others. Michael?
Yes, sir. First, I want to say this certainly goes along with your current series. And second, it's easy to forget that our hearts are drawn to wickedness initially. And so, thankfully, we are redeemed, but we are still drawn to the darkness by nature. So our hearts want wickedness.
Our hearts definitely want what we want, when we want it, as long as we want it. We want to be wise. Having spiritual wisdom, having wisdom that comes from the Holy Spirit, means that we're looking to make things better in relationships in the church. We are interested and focused on making our relationship with God stronger and better. The tail end of verse 14 says that we shouldn't brag about bitter envy and ambition, which I suppose it's not impossible to create a scenario in my brain where somebody in the church, all they can do is kind of toot their own horn on their way up the ladder, whatever that looks like in a congregation. But James says, don't brag about that. Don't boast about that. You should be embarrassed by it. And then he says, or deny the truth. I think that it would seem like that the truth behind that phrase is that somebody points at you and says, "Hey, I think you're jealous of those elders. I believe that you're bucking to be promoted to be in charge of some ministry. I think that you really believe that you're smarter than the pastor." And what James says is, look, don't deny it. It's obvious to everybody what's going on here. So just confess it.
Well, now that you've drawn me a picture, can you say this applies to Roy Christian Church?
I have no idea,
I
because I'm only in charge of me.
I just don't see this happening here. I don't see anybody clamoring to be an elder or to be a
Because they're
teacher.
told not to.
Yeah, I did. Sorry, I just,
In another church that I was a part of, there was a guy who every year, when it was time for elder nominations, he was bucking for it. He actually kind of campaigned a little bit. It's like, I'm not sure you understand what this is all about. Most of the guys who have this job really don't want it at all. So
Yeah, we can't even, nobody's clamoring to be a teacher, are they, Janice?
nobody's clamoring to be anything except for out by
That's because I
lunchtime.
don't read.
I just don't, yeah, I have a hard time seeing this unless he's talking about me, I don't know. Maybe I
Well,
just
he
need to
had-
look at me instead of
He,
what Christian.
he had not met you yet, so I can't imagine he would do that. If you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, don't boast about it. Don't deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, and of the devil. Okay? There's godly wisdom. There's earthly wisdom. Earthly wisdom says, grab all you can, grab life by the horns, go for the gusto, whatever you can get. It doesn't matter who you have to climb over the top of to get there. Go, go, go.
He,
That's worldly wisdom.
he who dies with the most toys still dies.
Well, that's our perspective of it, but theirs is he who dies with the most toys wins. Okay, this is all about getting as much as you can, promoting yourself, putting yourself out as some sort of a leader, as an influential person. That's earthly wisdom. Everybody is always bucking for more subscribers, for more followers, for more friends, more fans, more likes. It's embarrassing to me every Sunday morning to remind people that if they do that, that more people can hear the truth that we have. It feels like shameless self-promotion. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But it is not because I want to be a celebrity. I mean, I am. I think I have at least 35 followers on YouTube. So I am kind of a big deal. But I don't know why any of that's true. Okay? So that's earthly wisdom. Get as much as you can. Put yourself out there. You got to be the leader. If you're going to make things happen for yourself, forget about everybody else. That's earthly wisdom. Godly wisdom is we live humbly. We serve others. We don't show favoritism. We do what the word says. We have control of not just our actions, but we have control of our words, which means that we have some level of control over our hearts. We fill it up with good things, and so good things flow out of our behavior and our speech. Okay. Anything other than that is, James says, earthly, unspiritual, and of the devil. My new and improved NIV says demonic. Okay, they pull no punches. It's right from the pit of hell. All that kind of shameless, prideful self-promotion. Okay, what is it that we believe we know about where Satan came from? What's his story?
He was in heaven, trying to be equal to God.
Okay, he was a heavenly being created by God. He got to believing that he was equal to God. He was full of pride. Pride was his downfall. I wonder if that's where pride and downfall, where that comes from. Downfall from heaven. His sin was pride and selfish ambition, and I'm pretty sure that that's one of the reasons that James mentions right there that it is of the devil, that it is a demonic thing, because it's exactly what Satan was condemned for. Shameless self-promotion and ambition, not caring about his relationship with his creator, just trying to get ahead.
Mine says demonic too.
What do you have, NAS?
Yes.
Well, then it must be right, because they always nail the Greek pretty well. All right. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. And I hear in the back of my head for some reason, in short, you have a blasted mess. Little Mary Poppins falls in there for some reason. Must be the cadence of that. Where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder and every evil practice. He's been talking in chapter 3 about teachers. You shouldn't presume to be a teacher because you're going to be judged more harshly. And now he has been talking about selfish ambition and bitter envy. It would seem like that there either are teachers or could be teachers who really are trying to promote themselves and to get authority and influence in a congregation wherever they may be. And they are more concerned about earthly wisdom than they are spiritual wisdom. Because of that, they pick and fight. You know, what happens with your kids and grandkids if they're jealous of each other's stuff? All the time.
I'm really your favorite, aren't I, Grandma?
That's right.
No, I am.
Fights come because of those kind of issues, because of jealousy and the anger that comes out of that, and trying to get closer and closer to the top, clambering over the top of everybody else to put yourself out there. That always causes fights. I mean, how many of us have played King of the Mountain at some point? That's exactly what's going on in James chapter 3. I will get to the top of the mountain and you are not going to knock me off because I had to, knock everybody else off to get here. I'm not going to leave. Okay? It seems clear that there are teachers, that there could be teachers who would be very happy to have fought tooth and nail to get their position, and actually they seem kind of happy about the division in the church, the arguments in the church, that they reign victorious. They emerged as the leader. Okay. What do you think about any of that there in verses 13 to 16? How does it grab you?
The obvious, totally agree. It's easy to see what happens.
If a teacher fights tooth and nail, not for the position, but for the opportunity to teach young people about Jesus Christ. I mean, I've never seen that opportunity arise, but if you were in a big church and you saw that they weren't teaching the love of Jesus, the Bible, to these young children, and they started fighting tooth and nail to get in there so they could teach them correctly.
I don't believe that is what James is talking about.
Okay.
I think that James, Peter, and Paul, anybody else who wrote anything in the New Testament, would say that false teaching, that what's the word is gone. There's a word right there. It's just the right word for that kind of teaching. Wow. And I've already had a lot of coffee. I don't know where it is. When people teach those kind of falsehoods, when all they want to do is tickle people's ears and tell them what they want to hear, you got to have joy, 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 and God is going to bless you, bless you, bless you. That kind of stuff. I believe that we should be zealous for God's truth, and we need to condemn that kind of weak, shallow, superficial teaching, and we need to teach the whole gospel of God. And that's probably going to cause division, because there will always be people who want to hear nice, light, fluffy, cool whip kinds of teaching. It tastes good. It's easy to digest. It makes me feel nice about myself and the rest of the world. That stuff is also right there from Satan.
Okay. I really was sort of off the,
It would be awesome if there were people who were very enthusiastic about filling roles and taking opportunities to do ministry, whether that's teaching or service or, fill in the blank with anything else that a congregation needs to do in itself or in the community. That would be great. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen often.
And I've worked with some of the kids when we've just been talking about that, but is it a good choice or a bad choice? Is this God's choice or the devil's choice? So, and they're 5 and under, so they're just learning these things. You're gonna be in timeout by your parents, or are you gonna be getting a treat,
Well, it seems like that would be a very basic lesson that we all should learn fairly early on, that there are choices that honor God and there's choices that dishonor God. We can choose to make peace and live humbly and to serve and love, or we can choose to put ourselves first. This is not a good choice. Unfortunately, we don't learn that very easily, and there are a lot of adults who have never really learned how to make that choice either. Okay, so there's earthly wisdom, godly wisdom. Godly wisdom is clearly the better choice. Let's look at verse 17. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. Okay, so now James kind of details godly wisdom, describes it a little bit more. He's already said that if a person does not have this, back in James 1:5, if you don't have wisdom, you should ask God, and he will give it generously to all without finding fault. Down in verse 17 of chapter 1, James says that God is the Father of the heavenly lights, and that every good and perfect gift comes down from him. Wisdom is a good gift, a perfect gift, a complete gift that God will send down to those who ask. So those who have insight from God and are able to maintain a relationship with him have wisdom from heaven. Okay? If we don't have it, we ask for it. God has promised that he will give it to us. He will give it to us generously. He always gives good gifts to his children. We want to have this kind of wisdom from heaven. Then he describes it with several words here. The first one is that wisdom that comes from heaven is pure. It isn't tainted in any way. It isn't stained. It isn't defiled. If we opened the new jug of milk this morning at our house, and the cap was off, and Chubby the stupid cat jumps up on the counter and licks around the top of that milk jug, I'm out. That jug is going away. I'm not drinking after the cat. I've seen what the cat eats and licks. That's not going to be a part of my life. Okay?
Poor Chubby.
I had friends a long time ago that after every dinner that I ate with them, they would set their plates down on the floor, and the dogs and the cats would come and lick off all the plates and everything. And I loved those people, but it was really hard for me to get excited about going to eat at their house as often as I did. Like, oh, here come the cats. Okay? Because in my view, those things have been defiled by disgusting creatures. All right? Wisdom that comes from heaven isn't licked by the cat. It is pure. It is spotless. It isn't tainted or stained or funked up in any kind of a way by us. Heavenly wisdom is absolutely perfect and pure. Okay, and then he says that it is peace-loving. If somebody is peace-loving, what are they like?
Gentle,
Okay, they're gentle,
quiet,
quiet, tender.
Avoid confrontation, if possible.
Okay, they will avoid confrontation as long as it's possible. They want people to get along. They don't like conflict. They want it to not be there. Their default setting is peace. Let's not have conflict, but more importantly, let's not be in a place where we'd want to have conflict. Let's see if we can always work towards agreement and unity. It is pure. It is peace-loving. It is considerate. The word has to do with appropriateness and properness. It also has an idea of leniency in it, where your consideration for others may make you also a little gracious. It's not all hard-lined, follow the rules, black and white, hard edges, in or out kind of thing. But it is still concerned with what is appropriate and what is proper. Godly wisdom is like that. It is focused on what is appropriate for God's people, what's proper for God's people, but it also offers a bit of grace.
God shows us grace.
God shows us grace, so why wouldn't we want to show it to somebody else? Because they're wrong! That's why.
They could still be wrong, but that doesn't mean you can't be graceful with them.
Pure, peace-loving, considerate, and then the next descriptor is submissive, compliant. There is a factor of ease involved with it. Wisdom that comes from heaven is submissive. It is not, that would be kind of the opposite of what James has talked about in the previous paragraph. Selfish ambition and envy. I'm jockeying to get ahead of you. I want to be better than you. I want more power than you. I want more whatever than you. That's not a very submissive heart. Submissive is what you need, what you ask me to do, I'll do it. Okay, Michael?
Submissive, something that's been running through my brain, but that in recent years is learning, and that's wisdom also, is learning how to accept with peace outcomes that don't necessarily favor us.
Accepting with peace outcomes that don't favor us. Okay, well, if we are asked by God to do something that will take us away from the things that we value most, if there's some mission that he has put us on that doesn't advance us, I think that's a fair definition. Godly wisdom, heavenly wisdom leads us to submission, not self-promotion. You can't ask me to do that. I'm the pastor of the church. Don't you know? My family has been here for 5 generations. We paid for the original stained glass windows. You can't ignore me.
But Jesus washed the feet of the disciples.
Yes, Jesus was a foot washer in humility as a servant, submissive to the will of his Father, all the way to death. Okay, pure, peace-loving, considerate, submissive, and then full of mercy and good fruit. Compassion, the reaction in your core that drives you to do something for somebody else. When you see the commercials for sad puppies and kitties who are in the pound, and your heart goes, oh, and you send them a check for $300. That's compassion. That is being full of mercy. Jesus had that same kind of reaction when he looked at the crowds of people. Matthew says that he saw that they were like sheep without a shepherd, just wandering around, lost, uncared for, unprovided for. They needed something, and his heart went out to meet those needs. But it's not just being full of, oh! The other half of that phrase is also being full of good fruit. Again, we're kind of going backwards in James, a chapter. What happens to us on the inside is manifested on the outside. Whether it is our faith in God or our compassion for others, we don't just hold it inside. It is made real. It is demonstrated by what we do. Think about the list of spiritual fruit that comes from the Holy Spirit back in Galatians 5:22 and 23. Do you remember what the list is? The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Okay, nine characteristics of the Holy Spirit are listed there: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those things are all visible. Those are all demonstrable. If you have joy on the inside, it is obvious on the outside. If you are exhibiting patience, you're not flying off the handle, you're not in a rage, that is visible. That is measurable with our eyes. We can see all of that spiritual fruit isn't just something that we hold inside the closet of our lives. We don't tuck that away down deep and nobody can see it. All of that fruit moves from the inside out. It's always sort of oozing out of us from every pore. Being full of mercy and compassion should be the same way. We take a look at the people around us, especially people who are in a worse situation than we are, other brothers and sisters in Christ who have needs, and being full of mercy, we act. We take up a collection. We drop off a bag of groceries. We invite somebody over for a meal. We make a secret silent donation that nobody can track. However it is that we do it, being full of mercy isn't just something that we are inside. It is made real by what we do on the outside.
God bless you.
Okay, full of mercy and good fruit, and then there are 2 more words there: impartial and sincere. Okay, being impartial means that you don't make distinctions, you're not discriminating in an inappropriate way. You can see the earlier lesson on favoritism. Rich people, poor people, intelligent people, unschooled people, tattooed, clean, pierced, whole, straight, or otherwise. You know, there's too many qualification things there we could make. It doesn't make any difference. We don't show favoritism. We are impartial. We show God's love to everybody in the church and out of the church. It is impartial and it is sincere. You know, you can go back to this sermon from this last Sunday. We want to live lives that are without hypocrisy. They're without pretense. We're not pretending to be nice. We're not faking it to be a Christian. But we have been genuinely changed by Christ. And that's what people see. It's not an act. Unfortunately, we're usually going the other direction, where we're really not very good on the inside, and we're trying to convince everybody that we are nice. We say things that are not in keeping with what they've heard us say about our faith. After the sermon Sunday, I've probably seen another 3 or 4 illustrations of that idea, that somebody who is a really strong promoter of Christ and the church and Christian values and biblical morality, that they end up getting caught in some kind of horrible, scandalous affair. And everything that they've said is now suspect. Well, he didn't really believe it. If he's such a good Christian, then how would he do this? If she was such a great Bible teacher, how could she ever fall into this kind of behavior? Okay, we want to make sure that what we say and what we do match up. We're changed by Christ on the inside, and that oozes out of us to the outside.
Doesn't Paul say to be imitators?
Yes. There at the end of Ephesians 4, beginning of Ephesians 5, be imitators of God as dearly loved children. When we're little kids, we try to act just like our moms and dads. We see our dad driving the truck with his arm out the window, and so we drive with our arm out the window. We see our mom slicing off the ends of the ham to put it in the pan, and so we slice off the ends of the ham to put it in the pan. I'm sure you've heard that story. So whatever we see them do, that's what we do. We imitate them. We follow the pattern that they've set. And so that's what we should be doing, because we've been changed by Jesus, because God is our Father. We need to not live like the rest of the world. We need to be imitating Him sincerely, not just faking it till we make it. The last verse there, verse 18, is an interesting one for some discussion. Peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. What is the difference between a peacemaker and a peacekeeper?
If the peacekeeper leaves, hostility's gonna break out again.
Okay, a peacekeeper keeps things under control. As soon as the peacekeeper is gone, things will get ugly.
Peacemaker prevents that from happening in the first place.
Peacemaker prevents it. Prevents
Or
hostility.
makes the attempt. Sometimes you cannot.
Mediator.
There is.
A mediator. I had a wise man tell me a long time ago that there is a huge difference between the two. And unfortunately, I was in the worst of the categories. I don't like conflict at all. I absolutely hate conflict. My most vivid memories in my 50 years of life are the moments where I couldn't I couldn't ignore the conflict anymore. There was an ugly conversation, there was a loud conversation. I don't like those thoughts. I would rather pretend like nothing happened and just suck it up and push it deep, deep down and not let that out, in order to keep things sort of calm. Okay, that is peacekeeping. You can say everything you want to about me. You can call me everything but a child of God, and I won't get angry. I won't blow up at you. I'll just keep taking it. I will keep peace. Peacemaking is way more difficult.
Would that be a negotiator, peacemaker? You negotiate peace treaties?
Sort of. Yeah, it's a peacemaker. What is a peacemaker, Cody?
Colt 45.
Colt 45. It is an active pursuit of peace, not just keeping things calm on the surface, but actively going after the correction or the conflict to make it right. For me to say to somebody, here is why I don't spend any time with you anymore, because, and we need to fix this. You need to change, I need to change, we need to get along better. We can't just pretend that there's nothing wrong. I don't like peacemaking. It is a lot more work. But as a peace doer, somebody who does peace, who is pursuing peace, who is engaging for peace, who is negotiating for it, demanding it, pressing on toward it. Peacemakers who sow in peace, instead of creating division through envy and ambition. They are men and women who settle differences and bring about reconciliation. That is what godly wisdom does. It heals wounds. It doesn't just pretend that the wounds aren't there.
Does it matter if the peace person is inside or outside the conflict?
Does it matter if the peacemaker is inside or outside the conflict? Well, I suppose if you're totally outside it, you would be accused of meddling, getting in the way, stirring up something.
Or
But-
as a parent, you're kind of outside of your kids, and
True.
you do have an interest.
Yes, you do have an interest in it. A parent who is settling disputes between their children, they're not involved in the fight over the remote or the phone or whatever it is, but you certainly are affected by it.
Or other things?
Yeah. Sowing peace. Actively promoting it. I'm going to sneeze again.
God bless you.
Peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. Good things will come about. It is a godly thing. It is a righteous thing. It is a Christ-like thing to sow in peace, to make peace. And once peace has been made, to actively work to keep it peaceful. Not creating division, not creating disharmony, but actively pursuing unity and reconciliation, forgiveness. I'd use the word tolerance, but that doesn't have a very nice connotation anymore.
So is it wrong to be a peacekeeper? Like your example, is that you're a peacekeeper, but you don't want to be a peacemaker.
We
So
are
is it harmful to us?
We
To
are
be one
called
way or
as
the other?
Christians to make peace.
Make peace.
I think it can be. It can be harmful. It can weigh on you.
So James says you avoid people because of that.
Right.
They make me so upset, I just can't stand to be around them. Well, the coward in me says, well, then let's just find ways for you to not have to be around them. That's peacekeeping. Peacemaking is, let's get together and hash this out and figure out what in the world is wrong. Oh, that makes my stomach hurt just to think about it.
Me too.
I've had instances with the kids sometimes, you know, with arguments and carrying on. And then I say, now tell them you're sorry. I'm sorry. And I said, no, you're not really sorry. We're gonna stop and we're gonna ask Jesus. We're gonna pray to Jesus for you to say, I'm sorry, I mean it. You know, words, it's the action that helps. And you can't say action before and under, but you know, the things that you do. So, yeah, it makes it, just sometimes our words are not enough. Our emotions and follow their.
When the conflict is inside your own family, it's almost impossible to stay out of it. It's almost impossible not to have to, even if you don't choose to confront it.
That's why I like to teach 5 and under.
Yeah, but what if
The issue, yeah, it is. It's
I
so
get it, I
so
get it.
like in my family, either my children or in my relationship with my siblings. I have 2 brothers and a sister that I grew up with. If my parents would have just decided that the constant conflict between 2 of my siblings was okay, that they were just gonna whatever, just ignore it and let it go on, that relationship is never gonna be right. It's gonna be damaged forever. They will never want to spend any time with each other. They won't talk to one another. It's a bad, broken relationship. The right move, as hard as it may be, is to get to get involved because you have some authority and power as a parent to say, look, you 2, I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna fix it. If I let Cole and Cora stay mad at each other for the rest of their high school career, they have nothing to do with each other. My relationship with them is affected. Not to mention the relationships that they have with each other. How can they have a relationship with God if they can't even have a relationship with their sibling? They can see their sibling, they can't see God.
it's when the adults start acting like the 5-year-olds.
I know.
Just
Yeah.
imagine a love that does not flourish
What did you
because
say?
simply peacekeeping.
Michael said, imagine the love that does not flourish because there is only just peacekeeping. That all it is, peaceful on the surface. There's really nothing below that. They don't really grow in that relationship. They don't grow in love. They don't express that love.
So what did your parents do about the 2 siblings? How did they confront it?
Sent them to bed.
Well, you're maybe assuming that, my siblings all have a perfect relationship now.
Oh, yeah.
They don't.
Oh.
Sorry, you don't.
So they
You don't
didn't confront it.
Well, it was difficult because by the time some of my siblings were growing up, my parents were no longer together. And so there wasn't a united front that says, we're gonna fix this now. So, but I know my siblings or my parents will never watch this, so I can say whatever I'd like. If you do happen to watch it, make sure you note that in the comments below.
But most of us are grandparents. We don't have that authority, or do we?
Well, I think in your own home you have authority. If your grandkids are over and they're acting like
Children.
something they're not supposed to, then I think you have every right in your house to say, we don't act like that here.
Well, sometimes as a grandparent, your grandkids will tell you things that you can help them work through, that they're not gonna tell their parent.
True. Sometimes you can tell grandma and grandpa things you won't tell mom and dad. All right. The end of chapter 3 is not near as much fun as the tongue part of it at the beginning.
No, it's not, and I missed that part. But I've tried to be good.
If you are interested in going back through any of this stuff, just know that on the YouTube channel that all of the Bible studies that we have done since last March are there and available, whether it's the spiritual disciplines one or this one on James. I do have one to make up from James when I couldn't get my technology to work just right. So I think I owe the last half of chapter 2. But any of the stuff that we've done so far, you can go back and go through that one more time. Again, that's at look for Pastor James Sayers on YouTube, and you can find all the sermons. You can find all of the Bible study lessons. You can find some music playlists if you want, things that I like, and occasionally you can see what AJ has been watching on YouTube as well, because sometimes that ends up in my list. It's mostly Minecraft and Fortnite videos, so just know that I have no interest in either of those things at all. Well, next time we get together, we will start with James chapter 4. So if you want to read ahead in preparation for that, that would be a great thing. We'll plan to see you all here next time for another breathtaking look into James's letter.
Yeah, it says the need for self-control.